This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Disabled Persons Assembly's Notable Radio Show. DPA is a systemic advocacy organisation run by and for disabled people. DPA is a pan-impaired organisation with members across the country. Over the next half hour, we'll discover how we can work collaboratively to achieve inclusion for all New Zealanders. DPA's Notable Radio Show, a whole new attitude.
Kia ora and welcome to DPA's Notable Radio. I'm your host, Amy Taylor. Today we are discussing a petition that could have a profound impact on the lives of disabled New Zealanders. This petition has been submitted by Ricky Andrews to Parliament and calls for disability benefits to be decoupled from a partner's income. The petition raises important questions about fairness, financial independence, and the rights of disabled people to form relationships without being financially disadvantaged. Kia ora, Ricky, and thank you for joining us today.
Kia ora, Amy, and thanks for having me.
Hi, Ricky. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start this petition?
It's funny, it's funny to think how my life has changed, actually. Previously, I was a travel agent, living the dream, traveling the world. But today, I now live with Parkinson's and spend 98% of my time at home. So it's a quiet life at the moment. But I was 40 when I found out I had Parkinson's, and I've been living with it for 6 years now. And when I launched the decoupled.nz campaign, I never wanted it to be about me. I wanted it to be about the system and how we value everyday Kiwis. And to be honest, before this, I had no idea how the welfare system worked, but seeing it up close was a real eye-opener, and it shocked me. I couldn't believe this is how we treat our own people when we get sick or disabled through no fault of our own. And finding out that hard-working Kiwis lose their independence and become total dependents just because they live with a partner who earns a modest wage, it was just I couldn't fathom it. It's just wrong. It just doesn't fit with the Kiwi values that we all know, and like fairness and dignity and how we look out for each other. And that's when my DIY genes kicked in. I'm a bit of a DIY hack. So when something's broken, I don't just go out and buy something new. I figure out a way to fight it, and fix it, and roll up my sleeves and fix it. So that's sort of how I got into it, I guess. Determination and frustration and stubbornness.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, myself included, can really relate to what you are trying to do with this petition, because I feel incredibly dependent. I feel like I'm living in the 1950s housewife life in some ways, even though I do have a job. It's only 15 hours a week. So I'm not independent from my husband. And as a disabled person, I don't think anybody plans for disability in their lives. They plan to, I mean, I'm 39 years old. I planned at this time to be probably earning just about the highest income I would be in my life. And that's not the reality.
Yeah.
So for people who haven't heard about Decoupling New Zealand, can you outline exactly what your petition is asking Parliament to do?
The petition, I purposely targeted to try to get it over the line, because I know this, after a bit of research, there's been issues for a while, and it seems like a big thing for the government to sort of sort and fix. But we're asking the Parliament to amend the Social Security Act 2018 to completely remove joint income testing from 3 key areas: the community service card, disability allowance, and the supported living payment for those living with disabilities or chronic illnesses. We want the eligibility for these 3 supports to be assessed on an individual basis, based on a person's actual health needs and their own income, completely independent from what a partner earns. It's about fixing the law so that every sick Kiwi or disabled Kiwi, keeps their basic financial dignity and access to care, no matter who they live with.
I think that is incredibly valid. I've always wondered why it is that we're taxed as individuals and we receive benefits as families. And if my family was taxed as a family, we would be financially significantly better off. But
I did actually write to IRD about that as well, but they come back and said to change the system to assess joint incomes would be too expensive and too hard. So that's where that conversation ended with the IRD.
Completely inequitable. It's just not balanced.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about some of the ways why the system is unfair. Can you outline any other reasons why the current system of assessing disability support based on partner income is unfair?
But it's just like we just discussed. It creates a completely double standard in New Zealand law, and it just doesn't make sense. Like the rest of our system works, Inland Revenue taxes us strictly as individuals. If you get hurt at work, ACC supports you based on your own history and no matter what your partner earns. But for some reason, if you get sick or disabled, the government shifts the rules and they treat you and your healthcare as a household expense to be paid out of your partner's wage. To take someone's financial identity and make them a total dependent on their partner just because they got sick is unfair, outdated, and just a bad policy for New Zealand.
Thank you for that, Ricky. I think that those are some very, very true and very profound statements. So, how does this policy affect disabled people's independence and ability to make their own financial decisions? We've spoken a little bit about this, but can you outline any other reasons?
Well, when you take away a person's financial identity, you push them to the sidelines of society, and a healthy country needs every citizen to participate and contribute. Earlier in my campaign, or actually towards the end of my campaign, I created a little video, and I used the analogy that I think just sums this up really well. A fair society doesn't command the vulnerable to swim behind the boat while their partner exhausts themselves rowing for two. A decent society places everybody in the boat and gives everyone an oar. And right now, when a Kiwi gets sick or disabled, the state strips away their independence and throws them out of the boat. And having to ask your partner for money for basic things like a haircut or a doctor's visit erodes your dignity and confidence. If we want New Zealand to grow and thrive, we can't have one part of society left swimming behind. We need every citizen valued, supported, and placed in the boat and holding an oar. It's the right thing to do.
Gosh, you're making me feel emotional because it sits very heavily with me because I feel very much, yeah, it's my own personal situation and the situation that find a lot of people I know are in, and and the pressures that work puts on their relationship. So that leads us into the next section of our kōrero. We're going to talk about the human element and the human costs. So can you share anonymously some of the stories you've heard from disabled people affected by this policy?
I've heard quite a few, and just like what you mentioned before, I received some quite emotional sort of emails and messages from people right across from New Zealand, and it just shows that this isn't a rare issue. It touches every single corner of our society. I've heard from trade workers, teachers, cafes, and some former business owners who've hit the unexpected health crisis. And none of these people are looking for a handout. They're simply asking why the state safety net, a system they paid their taxes into for decades, completely disappears the moment they get sick, just because they live with a partner at a modest wage. A community vault. We created a community vault with shared people who wanted to share their stories with us, and they want a safety net that respects individual dignity and keeps families strong and reflects Kiwi values. But some of those stories, they were just heartbreaking. I'll just go to the worst one. I've received an email from a lady. Her husband's been diagnosed with a terminally ill condition, and they sought help from MSD. They went in there into the office to looking for help, and basically they were just turned away. And to me, this is a guy who's dying. What's wrong with our society if we can't help out a guy who's dying? There's something seriously wrong with the system, and to me that yeah, I got quite emotional when I read that the first time, and even now I still just start shaking a little bit every time. I just think that is so wrong. We've got things so wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, and we talk about things like autonomy and dying. Financial autonomy is part of that, to actually still feel like you are part of society and you're still a human being, not that you've been sidelined in this darkest and most difficult part of your life.
Yeah.
So can we talk about how partner means testing affects relationships?
It puts an immense strain, and it's unfair. It puts an immense unfair strain on relationships. And when someone gets sick, their partner naturally steps in to become a caregiver, they become a supporter and a rock for the family, and they are heroes for it. But under this rule, the state also forces that partner to take on 100% of the financial burden. And this just shifts the whole balance of a relationship. One person loses their financial identity and has to ask for money for basic needs, while the other person is forced to carry the entire household on their back. And it creates unintended stress, resentment, and a dynamic that no loving relationship should have to deal with. Instead of supporting families through a health crisis, this policy that MSD has of joint income testing just tears away the fabric of the home. And to be honest, strong relationships build a strong country. And if our laws are tearing them down, there's something that's wrong and needs to be fixed.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I always feel, and it makes me feel terrible. It makes me carry a burden of guilt because I know when my husband gets home from work at 5 o'clock and he's been at work since 8 and he's exhausted and he still needs to do all the housework, he still needs to cook the meal, he still needs to bathe the children. It almost feels like sometimes like he's a single parent, and it's not the case at all. And yeah, it puts an immense burden of guilt onto the disabled person, and I don't feel that is fair either. It creates inequitable relationships.
Yeah.
So some people have told us they feel that they can't even move in with their partner or get married because of the financial consequences. How common do you think this experience is in the disabled community?
It's sort of an interesting thing. The honest answer, nobody tracks it. Neither MSD nor Stats New Zealand measure human choices about, that people are forced to make. But I've heard it constantly, and it acts like that love tax that I've talked about during the campaign. Sick or disabled Kiwis are forced to choose between love and survival. And people choosing to stay single live apart or delay marriage, or they lose just so they don't lose their care and financial dignity. And at its core, I feel like this is a breach of a basic human right, the right to seek companionship, build a family, and fall in love without being financially penalised by the state. It's just a policy we should never be forcing on a citizen to choose between love and survival. It's just an outdated rule, and it's time for it to change. It's just it shouldn't exist.
You really feel like this has a huge weight on people's mental health and like actually. Relationships are meant to uphold our mental health and lift our mental health and not being able to interact with people in their isolation. It just sounds, as you say, it's very outdated and based on really false ideas where there was a time where we only needed one income to survive, and that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah.
So what does the impact of losing financial independence have on a person's dignity and well-being? We've just spoken a little bit about the mental health. Do you have any other thoughts?
Well, it just breaks that spirit, that person's spirit. When you lose your health, you're already coping with a huge loss. And then when the system takes away your financial identity too, it just strips away your self-worth. And having to ask your partner for money for everyday things just makes you feel like that burden. That it's just it changes how you see yourself and how it puts an actual strain on the people, an actual strain on people you love. And for me, that feeling of burden, that has been one of the most challenging things of my whole journey. It's just been absolutely immense and a very difficult mental challenge to accept and overcome. It's financial independence isn't about a luxury. It's about dignity. It's about having a voice and a sense of autonomy and feeling like a whole person. And when the policy takes that away, it just doesn't affect your bank account. It just erodes your mental health and your place in the world. The mental challenge has been one of the more struggling parts for me in my Parkinson's journey. For the first couple of years, it was you're going for a period of grief with you losing your life, essentially, the life you had, and then the burden you're putting on people that you love. So that's been a real challenge for me personally.
And as you say, it isn't about luxuries. It's about haircuts and doctor's visits. It's about essentials, and that idea that even to access the doctor, you need to ask your partner's permission. It just
Yeah.
really degrades your value as a human being in our society.
Yeah.
So how do you think this policy disproportionately affects women, Māori, and Pacifica, and other minority groups who already experience inequalities?
Well, that's just that the policy doesn't hit everyone equally, and then it deepens the cracks that are already out there. In my research, it isn't based on guesswork or anything like that. I've particularly just built it on reports that already exist from community groups, government bodies, and the United Nations even had a report. But in this June just passed, a report was released, a window called A Window on Disability, which exposed the reality of New Zealand at the moment. And it showed that Maori with disabilities are nearly 10 times more likely to die from treatable conditions than non-disabled, non-Maori populations. And whether it's women, Maori, Pacifica, who are already facing systemic wage gaps and caregiving pressures, when you strip away their financial independence, on top of that, you push the most vulnerable even further behind. And when the safety net fails and the people who need it fails the people who need it the most, the whole system's broken. We can't talk about equity in New Zealand while keeping the policy that actively creates inequality. It's just, the system's not right. It's just not fit for purpose.
It's interesting to hear you talk about the wage gap, because it does actually the cutoffs for getting MSD help if you're in a relationship are really quite low given our current cost of living crisis. And we're already seeing policies that are preventing women from closing the wage gap. So if you are a woman with a partner who is disabled, you're already in a financially difficult situation, and now you're having to support the entire family as well.
Yeah, it's a huge load. It's just not right.
Oh, it is very difficult. So a lot of people will just, and I've seen these comments on Facebook groups and things, that people say things like, well, you married her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, people have this idea that you have decided to be together, so you should simply support each other financially. And what do you say to that?
I've had the same comments come through on our Facebook page, decoupled.nz. I tell them that this policy was written for a world that no longer exists. Our social welfare was built back in the 1930s at the time of the Depression and remained much the same for the 20th century. There was tweaks and things along the way, but the main core of the policy was the same. And at that time, a single breadwinner could pay for a mortgage and buy groceries and raise children, not just one child. They could have a whole heap of them. And that's my nana's and mum's generation. And they could comfortably support a whole household on one income. But that's not the reality of today in New Zealand in 2026. With today's cost of living pressures, most households need 2 full-time incomes just to keep their heads above water. And that was our situation. Before I got sick, we were living a good life, but we needed the 2 incomes, and expecting one partner to carry the entire financial weight of a household when one person gets sick is just unreasonable and unsustainable in today's reality. So the times have changed, and government policies need to change with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, talking about that, we're on to our section on why change is needed. Do you believe disability support should be treated differently from other income supports or payments, or should all benefits treat us as individuals? After all, we are taxed as individuals.
Yeah, that's my personal opinion. Is they should all be treated individually. There's issues regarding coercive control of money and stuff like that with bad partners and stuff like that. But when we look at how our system works, like we're paying in revenue as a Kiwi, as an individual. But the moment you get sick and the government suddenly lumps you in with your partner, they can't have it both ways. It's just not fair. And as I said before, times have changed. The idea of one person's income automatically belonging to your partner is a very outdated concept. In our relationship, my partner has his money and I have my money. We used to pool the money together for the household expenses. And when you lose your income, it becomes quite an awkward sort of situation when one person loses their income. So whether it's disability support, health assistance, or general income support, every adult in New Zealand deserves to be treated as an individual citizen with dignity.
Yeah, and I think that can really go a long way to protecting people from financial abuse, and it can give
Mm,
people independence and dignity to move through relationships as is appropriate in the time and space that they're in. Relationships don't all last forever. That's the
yeah.
reality we live in. So disability often comes with additional costs that non-disabled people don't face. Can you talk about some of those extra costs?
I'll talk at it from a Parkinson's point of view because that's I've got first-hand experience with that. Beyond unfunded prescriptions and targeted supplements and things like that, with Parkinson's, medical research shows that tailored exercise is an essential medicine. It's proven to slow down Parkinson's progression. It protects the brain, helps with balancing and reducing falls that put you in hospital. But staying active comes at a price. Gym memberships, specialized classes, transports to those things. It, it and it all costs money, and for me, it creates a painful trade-off. Either my partner, who already works 60 hours a week, either has to pick up more hours to cover it, or I forego the exercises that keep me well. But I personally choose not to burden my partner any more than he's working. Um, but that's the reality with disabled Kiwis or sick Kiwis. Extra costs are constant and they're very real. And we simply cannot dump that entire financial burden onto one person who's already doing so much to keep the household afloat. It's just asking too much of any relationship.
It absolutely is. So, in the interest of time, we're going to move on to question 15. What would success look like if Parliament adopted the changes that you are seeking?
Success would look like immediate practical relief. First, it means removing partners' income tests from community service card disability allowance right away. It's something that can be done quite simply. And that single change gives people immediate access to affordable GP visits, essential prescriptions, daily health support, things they need the most to keep them out of an expensive hospital system, which also saves the government money. And ultimate success means every single person in New Zealand retains their dignity, autonomy, and financial identity, regardless of their health or relationship status.
That's a very good answer. Thank you, Ricky. What has the response to your petition been from the disabled community?
It's been the support has been overwhelming. It's been surprising for me. When I first launched this, I didn't expect more than 100 signatures. My social circle wasn't that big. So to close with a grassroots petition with 6,504 signatures just shows how deeply this resonates across the country. It just hasn't touched disabled Kiwis as well. It's touched families, friends, caregivers. Because the truth is that joint income testing affects everyone. You might not be sick or disabled today, but tomorrow it could be you, spouse, child, close friend, or a colleague. And the vast majority of people who have reached out have been, incredibly supportive because of that. It's just logical, fair, and long overdue.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Logical and fair and long overdue. What would you like politicians to understand about the realities of living with a disability under the current system?
I think the big thing is that this can happen to them. A disease or chronic illness can happen to anyone. And getting sick isn't a white collar crime. It's just that biological twist of fate. And we shouldn't be pushing Kiwis for a stroke of bad luck when it comes to their health. We should be supporting them and we should be doing the Kiwi thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that how our members of parliament would survive if they suddenly lost their $250,000
Yeah,
plus
yeah.
annual income. Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to ask them and how they felt about that. So how can members of the public support this kaupapa?
Right now, we're in the parliamentary bureaucracy sort of stage. So the petition's going through the committee's process. So it's a bit of a slow sort of process at the moment. But the main thing is at the moment to create awareness through the public and through your MPs, your electric MPs. Tell them about the petition, tell them how it affects your families, share your stories, and ask them directly what can they do to help the situation. And just stay updated with the decoupled.nz on Facebook. That's where we post everything I post everything as it goes through the process. But yeah, share the story is the main thing, I think.
And you have such an adorable little kiwi as your mascot. I do
I
love
know.
that. I enjoy getting him wandering along my Facebook feed. It really draws my attention into the work that you're doing. So I think the way that you've set up the Facebook page is really good and very interesting. If you would like to leave our listeners with one message about why this issue matters, what would it be?
I'll take us back to that analogy I used earlier. Let's build a New Zealand where no one is left swimming behind the boat, because every single one of us has a rightful place in it. Every single person in this country is important. You are important, and together we can do this. And thank you for sharing my story.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and the work that you've put into this really important petition. So remember, you can follow Decouple New Zealand on Facebook. You can learn about the petition. The petition's number is CRM 0124226. And so you can follow its progress through Parliament by visiting the New Zealand Parliament website. Conversations like this are an important reminder that disability support is about enabling people to live with dignity, independence, and equal opportunity. You've been listening to DPA's Notable Radio. I'm your host, Amy Taylor. Ngā mihi, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all next time.
Disabled Persons Assembly is Aotearoa, New Zealand's first pan-disability national organisation, providing system-level advocacy for all disabled people. Membership is free for individuals. If you'd like to know more, visit our national website at www.dpa.org.nz or contact your local kaituitui or community connector, Amy Taylor, at kaituitui.otipoti@dpa.org.nz. Disabled Persons Assembly, a whole new attitude.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.